Hey, good morning to those of you out there on the West Coast. Good afternoon to those of you here on the East Coast. It's been so long, I have to get my seatings all arranged here. Can you do me a favor as we're getting started? Just let me know that you got audio visual. It's been a while, and I just want to make sure that people can see. So I'm watching the chat for a few seconds as you do that. And as we get started, I thought I'd start something different in 2024. Today's January 1st. Happy New Year. Actually, it's one of the things I've been trying to do is to get this thing right with my profile. So hold on, I'm going to watch. Oh, thumbs up. Perfect. Thank you. I'm just trying to find. It's funny. It's been a few weeks. For those of you who know me, it's been a few weeks since I've been live. And so I forgot some of the things I do to get into a rhythm. When you do 200 or 300 in a row, you just get going. And now I'm a little off. So bear with me as I go forward. But one thing I thought I'd do in 2024 to start these live trainings off, just as a quick way to give somebody something maybe you don't know about me. And I figure I'll just start sharing because I don't share about myself. And then we dive into the training. So the first thing I would just share today is, if you don't know this, I have a lot of people in my life, a lot of family, but two particular names come up, Nancy and Cecilia. Cecilia is my sister. She works with me. You might see her in the chat, etc. She's awesome. She's been with me my whole life. And Nancy, my wife, feels like we've been together our whole life. And so when you hear those names, that's a little something that maybe you didn't know, that I work with my sister, which for me is fantastic. We've been in and out of working different businesses together through the last 2-3 decades, right? So a lot of time. And I'm really excited about that. Okay, I'm going to dive into today's training. Looks like we're all good to go. Got my sounds off. We've got a lot to talk about, or I've got a lot to talk about in today's training, so I'm pretty excited about it. We're going to be talking about the process that I teach for winning federal government contracts. One of the reasons I bring this up and love to talk about process, if you haven't heard me say this before, and I'm going to say it again in today's training, is that government contracting is not a secret, it's a process. And for the whole time I was a small business owner, I spent 20 years as a small business owner. And the whole time I was in there, it was as if everything was a secret. You know, it was part of the good old boy system or the secret, et cetera. And it drove me nuts, especially when I got out. It drove me nuts that once I was able to focus, I still didn't see any clear, easy process that was being communicated to small businesses. What we do as a small business is far, far different than what a large prime does. And so I really focus down on the 7-step process that I teach, and we'll talk about that. But I like making things simple or easy for myself. And when I do, it makes it easy for me to communicate to you and to help you go to that next level by following things like the 7-step process. I really like Stephen Covey. If you haven't heard me talk about this before, it's one of my all-time favorite books is 7 Habits for Highly Effective People. And in there, Stephen Covey, one of his habits is begin with the end in mind. And so that's the end part, which I totally get, and that's where we want to be. But the idea of a process, right, is you back up from that end point. Now that you know where you're going, where you want to go, you back it up, and that backing up process is those backing up steps are the process that's going to lead to your goal or your destination, et cetera. The other reason I really like process, and I'll try to show it a little bit today, is that when you have a proven process and you follow a process, if you're not achieving your goals, you can look at the process to go, where are we running into bottlenecks? What is blocking us? What are those roadblocks from preventing us from success? And that's another great reason and value for this process in general, in particular, 7-step process that I teach. If you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonald. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce. I spent 20 years in the small business or in the federal market as a small business owner. And since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. When we follow a process A to Z, we have repeatable, predictable results. And that's what I want for you. It's why I do this training day in, day out. I love it. 2 things I just wanted to mention before we get too far. If you're not already subscribed to our newsletter, we've got a government contracting success newsletter that I put out. It actually comes out a couple of times a week with a ton of information, because we put out massive amount of information that helps you do your job better. So make sure you subscribe. There's 11,000 other people in there who can join you as you move forward. And then also these trainings you do, thank you for showing up. Thank you for registering. Please make sure that you do register for the trainings, because It enables me and my team to be able to track the metrics, but also it allows us to be able to communicate with you after the fact. Hey, here's something we mentioned, or here's a handout, et cetera. And when you're registered, I can follow back up through just LinkedIn connecting, right? And then the other thing I ask is that if you value this training, which obviously do, if you're here on the first, right, is invite others as you go along. Let's invite others always to the training. Okay, I'm going to go through really fast in 20 minutes, right, the 7-step process. So I'm going to talk about a lot of stuff in a pretty quick pace, excuse me, and also at a high level. I will do many more trainings that take each one of these components and do their own training. And sometimes even within like targeting, I will take another part of targeting and break that out for separate training. So this is a high level overview, but the reason this is very good is because it allows you to look into 2024 and go, okay, there's the process I'm going to follow. In the end, I'm going to tell you, ask me for a copy of our handout, this diagram, so that you can print it and put it on your wall. You should look at it every day. I look at it every day, and I'm very good at very experienced at what I do. I would submit I'm also very good. So here, a high-level overview of the process. I break it. It's a 7-step process that I break into 2 sections, right? Path to relationships, because this is kind of the hard work, early work that you need when you don't have much traction to get into relationships. But once you get to relationships here in the middle, you're going to be on what I call the wheel of success. And so I'm going to talk about that in a second. The 7-step process begins with research, this idea of just understanding the buyer. And then it moves on to targeting, where you're trying to just write down a list of people's names, numbers, and email addresses so you can contact them. From there, you are doing outreach. Outreach is basically cold calling. The whole point of this, again, these 3 steps, research, targeting, and outreach, they're leading you to the ability to develop strategic relationships. In particular, when you think about an agency, right? Once you have strategic relationships within an agency, you can start hearing about opportunities long before SAM. And so opportunities, excuse me, up at the top, that's about putting the right opportunities into your pipeline. We call them slam dunk opportunities, et cetera. In fact, we call these strategic relationships to differentiate them. And then slam dunk opportunities, these are ones that really you're the best at and you can knock out of the park every time you write a proposal or do the work. And then opportunities, when you've got the right opportunities in your pipeline, it allows you to write not just proposals, but winning proposals, proposals that every time you submit it, the contract officer wishes they could award it to you, right? They might award it to a different vendor because of different reasons, but the winning proposal, the winningness of the proposal is that every proposal that goes, the contractor, the program office are like, wow, that would be a good choice if that's the one we chose. Maybe you lose on pricing or something. And then the last one is when you write winning proposals, you're going to have more sales. And the whole idea of this wheel of success is once you're on it, you don't get off. If you deliver good service, you're going to develop new relationships and stronger relationships that allow you to hear about more opportunities, that allow you to write more winning proposals and get more sales and more relationships. You're just on there forever. And the only time you really come off is if you want to go to another agency, another area where you don't have these relationships, you go back to that research, targeting, and outreach. This becomes that path to get in. I'm going to dive deeper into this later this week as well. Okay, so let's walk through the 7-step process. And again, I'll try to move fairly fast. If you got questions, put them in the chat. I'll follow up afterwards and try to respond to you pretty quickly on it. The purpose of research is to know an agency better than anyone even in the military. Actually, down at the bottom here, I have a Colonel H in the Army, and it's somebody I'm working with. He's in the Army, he's getting out in a couple of years, and he's starting his own business, and he was saying, hey, can you give me some guidance on what I should be doing, what I should be thinking about as I'm getting out? And what I told him was, forget about all this busy work that you often hear people tell us to do as small businesses. There's only 3 things he needs to do. The first thing is he needs to really understand his offer. What's your clear, focused offer, core competency, right? You really need to narrow down on that, because the first conversation I had with him, he was like, I do a lot. And I was like, no, forget that. Niche down, come down to your power offering. The second thing you need to do is you're in the Army. So you need to know the Army right now. And I said to him respectfully, you don't know anything about the Army. Like, you know about your world. And maybe you know about this component of it, right? Say you're in weapons or something, you know about weapons, but you don't know about all the other aspects of the Army. And you don't know all the people. There's hundreds of thousands. I can't remember how many people are in the Army, but 500,000 or 1 million. And so you don't know all that. Well, spend the next 2 years becoming a really good student of the Army. And that leads to the third one, which is build strategic relationships. And so when he understands the Army, what I was telling him is before you even get out, just start teaching people about the Army. And if you teach people about the Army, you're building relationships with potential teaming partners who will help you succeed when you come out. Different story, but the whole point of that is to get to know the agency better than anyone else. Even if you are in that agency, take the time. Another value thing that you need to be paying attention to as it relates to research is you want to understand how that agency buys. I have this whole training I do where and I'm going to do it again in the next few weeks, about the acquisition path of any particular office, agency, et cetera. And I use USDA's roadmap because hands down, it's the best one I've ever seen. And that particular one is this literal roadmap with, I think, 4 layers of looping back and forth with all these different steps that the government goes through when they're buying. When you look at that and you understand it, then you can begin to apply your sales efforts into those cycles. Plus, when you're looking at opportunities, you know how to look at an opportunity and see where in the roadmap, where in the government's journey are they. You're able to have better conversations, but you have to understand how do they buy. And this research is you getting in there, not just looking at the internet, but having meetings and talking, et cetera. Hey, one quick sidebar is I show the 7-step process, but keep in mind, it's not just linear. Like it doesn't go from step 1 to step 7 and that's it. It bounces back and forth as you need it. Sometimes you need to go back and develop new research or new relationships or do more research. And so you'll bounce back and forth. Research, you also want to understand what is the government trying to do? What are the challenges they're facing? When you understand this, you're better able to align your opportunities, or excuse me, your capabilities to what they need, where they're trying to go or what they're trying to overcome. That's research, just a very dabbling into the research area. Step 2 is about targeting. And so here we just really are trying to build a list of people to call, right? We want to know who to call. I put down below 100 people. The idea is you want to build a list of 100 or 200 people so that you can call them. You don't want to work relationships or do your sales activities one person at a time. Like, you find one person's name, you come over here and try to do the work. A good process means let me do a lot of targeting, put it together in a spreadsheet or whatever tool you use, where I have 100 or 200 people's names, numbers, and emails, so I can begin to reach out to them. No spamming, right? You're reaching out to them one at a time, but now you can go through, and these people are all one way or another related to each other. You want to make sure when you're doing targeting that you're focusing on one agency. I was talking to somebody over the weekend, actually, who was asking for my help, and what I told them was they were looking at multiple agencies, including DOD and VA and some other things, and they're an SDVO. And what I said was, this happened to be another Army person, but I said, just focus on the Army. For the next $3 million, just focus on the Army. If you've got traction in the Army, you've got something nobody else has, or most of us don't have, which is an understanding of the Army, especially where you're at. That is a great value to teaming partners. And so it's ability to build. Well, when you focus on just the Army instead of multiple agencies or even coming down to one command within the Army, when you do that, it allows you to focus your targeting effort into a bunch of people who potentially know of each other, if not directly know each other. So there's 3 types of people you're looking for in targeting. I describe this in sales as focuses of receptivity, this third bullet, focuses of receptivity, focuses of dissatisfaction, and focuses of power. And this comes from, I can't remember the title of the book, Major Account Sales by Neil Rackman. I got books all around. But Neil Rackman, I've been a student of his for 20 plus years in sales, and he describes this, and this idea of focuses of receptivity can't really help you make a sale, but they can help you navigate the company or agency you're trying to get into. Focuses of dissatisfaction, think the program office, right? They're the ones with the problem. They're the ones you would actually work with. And then you got focuses of power. In the government world, that's the contracting officer. And so there's these 3 types of people you're trying to find when you're building a target list. They can be from the government or from business. And that's that last bullet there, 3 types of contacts. So you have 3 types of people, and then there's 3 roles or 3 types of contacts. So the first one is small business. If I'm trying to get into an agency, I always look to build my targeting list, build people from small businesses that are winning in that agency, from large businesses that are winning in that agency, and from the agency itself. I'm trying to find people in the contracting shop and the program office shop, right? So there's many different people you're trying to find. But at a high level, anytime you're trying to go into an agency, target small business, large business, and agency points of contact. If you're brand new to government contracting, perhaps don't even bother with a large business at the moment. Focus more on small businesses, and you'll have much more success. Okay, so outreach is basically cold calling, right? So here you're trying to find people who will talk with you. These people are potential relationships, right? How do you have a strategic relationship? You find somebody, you reach out, you have a meeting or two or three, and you begin to see it evolving into a strategic relationship. Now you're on that winning wheel, right? And so the idea behind it, outreach, is that I said it's basically cold calling, but it's also called outbound sales. You have to do a lot of this. I've been doing exactly what I'm doing for 6 years, and I've just been giving massive value. So I'm at a different stage than some people, right? And so I get people contacting me wanting to work with me. But if I'm not getting enough people, or if I'm not reaching the type of customer I might want to reach out to, I have to do outbound. I have to go out and attract them by saying, can I get a meeting with you? Can I talk to you for 15 minutes, see if this interests you? Well, you're doing the same thing. If you're trying to work with small businesses or large businesses or agency personnel, agency buyers, you need to reach out to them. So outreach is about doing that. That's that first meeting. Some people also talk, in the old days, we used to call it capability briefing. You go in. I don't like that idea because there's no discussion. It's just blah. Like, here's me. You got business. And I like it much better when it truly is sales. Sales is about having discussions around goals and challenges. My challenge is staying hydrated. So one of the things about outreach, just to keep in mind, and I teach a lot of this, is every step of this 7-step process has its own process. So outreach has its own process that when you do follow it, and you follow it with enough people, that list of 100 or 200 people, when you follow it, you're going to get meetings. That's what you want, right? You want to get meetings and you want to get in the door so you can start developing those relationships. And so these outreach activities are where you have the first meeting and where you're making your first impression. And I never believe in that whole theory of you only have one chance to make a first impression, right? Somebody made a bad first impression with me, but they got a meeting on Tuesday with me. And when I have that meeting, in my mind, I'm like, clean slate, let me give you a second chance. Maybe that was a mistake, right? And so you have a chance to move forward. But this outreach activity, whether it's one meeting or multiple, it's your chance to make an impression on people. And so the goal, and I can't dig too far into this right now, but the goal of outreach is to have not just meetings, not just great meetings where they love me, we love them, right? Everything's great. It's to have a successful meeting, and successful meetings move the sale forward one way or another. For the most part in the government, it's if they're sharing information, right? For the most part in teaming partner relationships, it's where they're committing more and more, signing an NDA or scheduling a recurring meeting, things like that. But you want to have successful meetings, a whole training separate on that you can learn about. All right, so let's talk about relationships. When I say relationships, it's not just relationships. It's developing strategic relationships. These are going to lead to your long-term success. The way I define, I have a whole training just on what is strategic relationships and how do you get them and how do you define them. But right here, second bullet, I say they're committed to mutual learning and growth. A strategic relationship is when you and I, man, I've been out of this speaking gig for a while. When we two are committed to mutual learning and growth, then we're in a strategic relationship, right? That can be with an agency where we're committed to learning about data analytics, or we're talking about it. They're committed to having the conversation with me. I'm committed to sharing information. That's still committed. We don't have to buy or sell anything at the moment, but we're committed to learning. And same thing with industry, right? We're committed to learning and growing together. This is different, by the way, strategic relationships, than your normal relationships that are out there or your broader network. I have, according to LinkedIn, I have, millions of people, but I have 25,000 followers, right? So people in my LinkedIn network. I don't know them all. I would submit I know less than half, right? But there's a much smaller group, let's say under 100 for me, that are in any way close to being strategic. It doesn't mean I won't work with the thousands that I'm connected with. That's a normal relationship. But the idea of a strategic relationship is like best friends, right? Don't have a lot of best friends. I'm okay if you have 2 or 3 best friends. I think the name is a little off, but you can't have 5 and 10 and 20 best friends. At some point, you don't have the time to give to them. And it's the same thing with strategic relationships. You don't have the time to give a lot of yourself to that other person. And so you want to keep it constrained. And what I say is you want 24 strategic relationships, because unlike a personal relationship, you don't have that heavy personal sharing type thing. You're just mutually learning and mutually growing. And so I say that you should be aiming for 24 strategic relationships, 8 with smalls, 8 with larges, and 8 with agencies. If you're brand new to government contracting, forget about the largest for a moment. That takes time. They have a much, they're a clique of their own, right? They're 8th graders and we're just 3rd graders. Let's hang out with the 3rd graders, the 5th graders. And, the agencies is more like the parents or the teachers, right? We can have those relationships. But when you have these relationships, it will lead to your success. An example is I've got a customer who is a small business doing around 5 million and they want to, they're doing around 20 million and they want to get into the Army. So I'm introducing them to another customer that I have that is doing 100+ million in the Army, who's looking to do 2 things. They're looking to get out of, expand beyond the Army, and they're looking to work with a small business so they can go after some of the small business dollars. And so not only am I putting them together for one opportunity win, but I'm teaching both of them come together and have a relationship, meet every 2 weeks and look at a broader pipeline. Now you're developing, you're mutually growing, right? You're developing a strategic relationship with each other. I try to put down here just this example of how valuable relationships are. And I'm going to do it in a very fast way. And so you can watch more training I'll do where I expand on these examples. But at the bottom here, I say 16 small business. So remember, I said 24 relationships. Let's subtract 8 that are with agencies. That means you have 16 relationships with industry teaming partners, 8 small, 8 larges. If you just get 2 full-time equivalent positions with each one of those, and I'm talking to service-based businesses pretty much, but over the next year, if you get 2 positions with them and they're at a very low rate of $50 an hour, then you're going to be looking at $3+ million in revenue. I have people do this a lot where they want these revenue goals and they aim for the federal agency or large primes, but they're missing out on all these relationships that can happen with small businesses as well. And so when you have strategic relationships, remember, a strategic relationship is one that is committed to your growth. I just said I've got 2 customers together. I have made many connections between, $1, $2, $3 million companies and much larger companies, and not even the billion, right? Just in that 20+ range, where they come together and the smaller is able to work with the larger, bring their core competency, their niche, or for example, like those guys in the Army where I said they know the Army. That is valuable to people sometimes. So when you have a strategic relationship, part of the guarantee in there, in my opinion, is that you're going to get business with that strategic partner. We're going to work together one way or another, that I'm able to subcontract on your contracts. And I want you to keep this in mind. And it reverses as well. As you grow and you have more success, you want to be helping your teaming partner get access to some of your contracts, right? But the whole idea of this is coming back down to develop the strategic relationships. It will lead to the next level. People worry about how hard it is to get relationships, et cetera. It's because we're thinking good old boy system where we had to be somewhere. But if you think about building relationships as just a work, a process, I have to do this. I have to earn their trust. I have to begin to get them to know and like and trust me, right? As you move forward doing that, it will lead to a strategic relationship, which then puts you on the wheel of success, right? Okay, number 5, opportunities. So this is your sales pipeline. The biggest thing I want you to understand is in here at this step, we're trying to put slam dunk opportunities in. Slam dunk opportunities are ones that you can knock out of the park. You've got pure expertise on. So if you have opportunities or if you have things you want to do that aren't slam dunk, get rid of them. Get rid of them now as fast as you can. Focus and know, and I say here, you need a clear, focused offer. Know what your core competency is. What are you best at? And then go sell that. Go find those opportunities that are in that space. Don't do all IT, right? Don't do all construction. Niche down. When you niche down, I guarantee you will have success way faster than if you don't niche down. The goal of opportunities in the 7-step process is to populate that federal sales pipeline so you have predictable revenue. How can you look out and say, I want to be a $3 million company or a $30 million company if you don't have a sales pipeline that reliably spits out wins, right? Reliably wins government contracts and allows you to get that revenue. If you don't have a good, reliable pipeline, then you're not going to move forward. And the last thing is, when you have opportunities in the pipeline, far enough advanced, et cetera, then you're going to be able to shape those opportunities. Shaping generally is shaping the technical requirements and the acquisition approach. And I'm not here to talk about that at the moment, but you do have the ability to shape the customer's thinking in sales when you get in early. The earlier you get in, the more willing the customer is to have conversations with you. And so you want to be able to do that. And that comes from getting opportunities into your pipeline. This next one, proposals, right? It's not just about writing proposals. It's about writing winning proposals. And I already described that earlier when I said it's proposals the contracting officer looks at, or the program officer looks at, or program office looks at and says, we would be totally happy awarding to this company, right? They may or may not go with your competitors. That's immaterial. You want to write proposals that every single time, if you get a debrief, they go, yours was awesome. We just went this way because of this one reason, right? That little things. And that's normal, right? You win 1 out of 4 proposals and you're doing great. So proposals, when I say winning proposals, there's all sorts of stuff that go into this, and I can talk much more later. But the 4 C's that I like to say about proposals is that it needs to be clear, compliant, compelling, and convincing. Hopefully those are all really clear themselves, those 4 bullets, right? Everybody does compelling. Clear, basically what that means is don't fill up an entire page full of words. Figure out how to make it easier to read, similar to what I have. I have simple bullets here, larger text. Compelling is you want them to look and say, yes, I'm excited by what you're saying, but you need to convince me that what you're saying really holds water. And so convincing is the other side of the compelling coin, right? I'm providing a compelling case for the government to go this direction, and here's my proof, right? That's what convincing is to me when I say that. And I can't go into this far, but come back to me and watch more training. You should be submitting 48 proposals per year. And if all you did was subcontract, remember those 16 relationships, that's only 3 throughout the entire year. If you have a strategic relationship that you can't be getting on 4, 5, 10 proposals every year, then it's not a good strategic relationship. You need to find other relationships. Every good strategic relationship will bring you on to minimum 4 per year. Right? If not, then you're in a company that's too small or doesn't care about using you too well. It's fine. Just find another strategic relationship. Sales in the last step here, it's about winning and learning, or losing and winning. You're going to do one of those 2 things, right? Win the contract or lose the contract. And it doesn't matter. Do either one of those and then learn. Learn from the government, learn from yourselves. And when you do this, and when you're pursuing government work and you're winning and you're losing, you're going to be able to build stronger and longer and new relationships within the government and with your teaming partner. And so that's that part about being on the circle of success. It doesn't really matter if you win or lose. You'll continue to strengthen the relationships if you're writing winning proposals. All right, here's what I want you to do as we wrap up the training for today. Some things I want you to remember. And it really comes down to the 7-step process, right? Download the 7-step process. I can let you know where it's at. I got a 2024 update, but download the 7-step process, print it out and put it up on your wall, right? I got it right back there. So I'm looking at it every single day. I don't actually even sell to the government. I just want to make sure that I'm following the process that I teach when I'm working with my customers. And that's what I want you to do. Put it on your wall, look at it every day. First thing in the morning or something, look at it and go, got it. If you're interested in working with us, we'd love to work with companies that want to accelerate their growth. Watch my training. I have a lot of training, but when you're ready to work with us, just go check out how you can on www.govconchamber.com. Again, if you want the 7-step process, just put that in the chat. Process, please, and I will send that to you. Last thing I want you to remember is that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. When we follow the process, we'll have the success that we want. I'll see you in the next training.